Yes.
Good.
Good.
What's up, man?
Whew. It's been a busy week, brother. How,
Well,
how are you doing?
oh,
How you doing?
how you doing?
Oh,
Oh my
dude, I'm excited
goodness.
for this episode, honestly. Like, I don't
Yeah?
even know what the
What's
topic
so
is.
exciting about it?
Well, number one, I'm excited because you and I get to hang out, and anytime that we get to hang out, I get excited. But number two, I've had one of those weeks where like everything's been really busy, and I'm so excited
Yeah,
to just have fun and play in this space together, and got some good drinks today, so I'm excited about that
we
as well.
do. We do. Let's start there. So, welcome to the last drop. If you've never been here before, Dave and I, we are going to do two things together. One, we are going to have a delicious beverage that I'm going to share with you in just a second. And number two, we're going to create a fake business idea, and we're going to take it way too far.
It's true.
And the goal is to take it as far as we can before we finish our glass. So this week we are drinking Familia Flores Tequila Reposado Cristalino. I'll try and give this the old. Ooh, look at that bottle. What's cool is there's an extra shot in the cap. I don't know if you can see the
little extra.
So when you think you're out, you got a little bit more. So very excited to drink this out of my Darth Maul glass here.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Smells amazing. Smells like
It's delicious.
caramel. Dude.
I'm in on it.
So we've got a delicious drink, but we need a great business idea. And I went back and forth for a bit for this episode on what we should do. And I was like, what have we not done yet?
Ooh.
So today we're tackling some B2B SaaS product.
Okay.
We have an AI-powered platform that monitors how your team uses software, identifies those inefficiencies and hidden frictions, and then delivers clear, actionable recommendations to transform your tech stack into a seamless, optimized system known as Refynr.
Refynr. Ooh.
Yeah.
All right.
We got a drink. We got a crazy business idea. Let's take the last drop. Hold on to your glass. Dave. SaaS software product for B2B.
I've owned some of these in the past. Okay, so here's the fun part. What I think is the fun part. When you're doing SaaS for B2B, you can charge a lot. Because when you're dealing with businesses, you have the opportunity to increase the budget due to the overarching impact that you have, as opposed to having an impact on one individual's finances, efficiency, whatever. So this is fun because you get to do big ticket sales, and it also means that you have an audience that has a very specific outcome that they're looking for. So I really like it. When you think through, as you kind of came up with this idea, Jake, because it's your brainchild here, what are some of the things that led you to this idea? Because I think that's actually going to give some insight into some of the core benefits and features of the product itself.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we run an agency. We use a lot of tech, a lot of software products. And one of the exercises we went through last quarter was, what the hell are we not using? What are we using poorly that we could use better, and how? How do we get more efficient and effective, not just in the tech stack itself, but the usage of the tech stack and ultimately the financial investment on that tech stack?
Got it. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay.
So one of the things I was playing around with was we use Monday.com. It's got a ton of features.
Sure.
Okay. Are there features of that platform that we're actively paying for, because we pay for the platform, that we're not using, that could maybe be identified by a tool that's installed in all the company hardware that would detect usage? Or, kind of antithesis to that, is there a feature that people are getting hung up on, that they're spending a lot of time trying to use, that's maybe not intuitive, they didn't get trained on? Is there something that we can do to make the business more successful by understanding how this software is being used or not used?
Ooh, man. And here's what's interesting about this. So the average white collar worker in the US today has 7 different logins for 7 different platforms that they're actively supposed to be using on a daily or weekly basis.
That's a lot of logins.
It's crazy. And the other thing that's kind of weird, most people, I forget what the rule is, Jake, you may remember it, but like, I think it's 10%. Most people only use 10% of the actual like features of the SaaS product that they're using, right? So like they're using this slim margin. So what ends up happening, I think, a lot is you are unable to access a lot of the benefits that you're actually paying for. And then conversely, we have so many tools that a lot of people aren't using any of them at all. So I think that there's one thing here that, we would, with this product, Refynr, we would be able to identify some SaaS platforms that are just not even, have no efficacy. They have very little usage, if at all, if any. Big businesses, by the way, they would freaking love this. I have had too many conversations with people in large organizations where they're like, oh yeah, we will spend, and I've seen this too, we'll spend 50 grand, 100 grand, 150 grand on a product that we use 1 or 2 times a year. And then it just sits there in the background. We never use it again. And it's funny when it's like, that's so wild, But it's also, it ends up being a large line item in the budget that's just truly unnecessary, and it never gets used in a meaningful way. I think that the other thing that I think about with this too is it could totally disrupt the SaaS marketplace as it sits currently. You and I have had
absolutely.
You and I have had some conversations about how streaming TV services need a shakeup. And this reminds me of that. What if instead of, let's use Monday.com as a good example because they're well known and you brought them up. What if you could use slices of Monday.com? Because there are multiple ways to use it. There are people that are like, I use it as a CRM. We use it as a project management software almost exclusively. We use one of the higher end plans for ourselves. I know we do not use all the features.
No, we don't. We definitely don't.
Even if we could get a 30% reduction in our costs, but we lose 50% of the features that we just don't use, that would be really interesting to us as a business. We
Absolutely.
would probably pay more for the features we're really, really into, while simultaneously paying less in total in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. And I think part of, there's a lot of directions you can go with this software, but I'm almost thinking like it could be kind of its own, Trust Pilot, where all of these softwares are getting used, and Refynr is collecting all of this user data. And you could actually create your own performance profiles where it's like, hey, companies really use it for this, this, and this. It's not really used for this very often. And here's the one spot people get stuck on. So you could kind of have like an external play of being a directory service for SaaS as well.
Yeah.
So let's back it up. Software, we've talked about an app before. Back to brass tacks. We've got the idea. Where do you start this project? Because I feel like apps tend to be very straightforward. I'm here. I want it to do this. This has a bit more of a broad context to it.
Yeah.
Where do you start? Is it with like architecture? Is it with features? Is it with a workflow diagram? Like where is that beginning?
I think that before I wrote a single line of code, before we really started to talk in detail about all the things that Refynr could do or should do, I would start to have conversations with stakeholders that I think would be excellent early adopters. So I would go try and get into some large corporations. And this little tactic move, actually, I've used, and I've had a lot of success with it. So I go and I say, hey, I'm Dave. I'm looking to start this software company that will help you and businesses like fill in the blank business, whatever their business is, cut costs and find efficiencies in their software usage. And I'm doing market research to see what's interesting to you. Would you give me 15 minutes of your time?
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool, and I mean that this is really cool to me. People want to help you, and so I've gotten a lot of yeses. I've gotten a lot of people that have been like, absolutely, So I think that there's a good way for you to just do two things simultaneously there. Number one, you're going to get some helpful information back. But number two, you could say, hey, thank you so much for taking the time. As we start to roll out this software, would you be interested in having a free trial as a alpha or beta user to help us refine the product? What are they going to say? Yes, because they already said yes to the conversation. You're going to tell them why you're doing this, what your passion is behind it. And so then you have some baked in people that are already in to the conversation. And they're like, dude, this is sick. Like, I can help you guys craft this software tool so that it's really something that we would want to use. So not only are you finding good feedback, you're also preceding your future customer and clientele base. So to me, like, I think that you start with the data and research. Where would you start?
No, I love that idea of kind of leading with discovery with a touch of sales dashed in. To me, I think about what is the ultimate outcome that could come from this.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to work backwards into feature sets that deliver those outcomes. So like one of the things for me that I want to make sure makes a ton of sense is whatever the output is after the analysis, it has to be hyper actionable, hyper usable, simple to understand, with like a clear cut message of, hey, by the way, only 38% of your staff uses Slack at least once a day.
Crazy.
So I'm going to work back from the outcomes that I think people are going to want, that's going to make them feel good, feel invested in the product, and then kind of start to architect out some of those features and workflows that will meet that in the long run.
Yeah.
So once you know what it needs to do, which we have, high level idea here, getting into the development phase, there's lots of questions, there's lots of potential pitfalls here. How would you go about structuring or guiding the development team in structuring the analysis process? Are you going to keep it super maybe high level with almost like a screen recording through an intelligence? Or do you want to get into like the kernel of the system and collect data at a raw level? Like what to you makes more sense?
Ooh, I think that at first you could just go with collecting the raw data, right? So like some of that is just easy feedback loops, API integrations that are probably already open. So triggering things like how many times did they log into Slack? How many messages did they send? How many interactions did they have with team members and how many threads were they in? You could get a report and aggregate that data pretty easily with some open APIs that already exist. And so to me, it's like the shortest distance to an MVP is just getting that API data, coalescing it, putting it into a dashboard, and then pushing it to your customers. I think over time, the screen recordings, the additional data of like what's their linger time, do they just have it open on their desktop? Do they not? How do they respond to notifications? How quickly are they responding to notifications? Could you get that metadata overall? Could you segment it department by department? How granular do you want that to be? Could it be team by team? So you've got insight into like this group of 7 people, this is how they function within that framework. I think that you can keep going more and more granular the deeper you get. But I think that in the MVP idea, just having a high level understanding of where are people logging in, what are they up to, how are they using it, what does that look like, what does that sound like, I think that that's where I would start, because it is the easiest path to success. But, it's one of those things where there's no wrong way to eat a Reese's, and there's a lot of very valid approaches to this. Where would you start, man? Like, what's the thing that comes top of mind for you?
See, I'm the flip side of you.
Oh, I love
think
when we disagree, like when we have different approaches. It's one of my favorite things.
I think I'm the flip side, because if you go the API route, you're saying that we can only analyze these products. Whereas with the screen recording through a trained AI observer, I'm agnostic to any platform you use. If you use some obscure, internal file sending tool, I don't have to have a special coding for it. The AI just needs to be able to go, oh, look, they're using Gigglebox, like whatever it is. And it would know just by observing what it is or what's going on with that tool. So I think that I would lean into it that way. Plus also, like, who doesn't like AI right now? And I think the screen recording would actually be much swifter to implement in general, like as a tool set. It's pretty simplistic. And it's flexible. So, but I do like the idea of having some dedicated APIs for some deeper metrics over time in the product.
Yeah, I think however you go about it, it has to match the research that you did initially, and I think that that's the most important piece, because if there's a hunger for what you're talking about, doing it your way, in the data, in the research that you're getting, in the feedback, then you have to go that direction. If it's unclear, if it's like, dude, I would just love to know who's actually logging into these platforms, who's using them in a meaningful way, then maybe there is an argument for just the API existence to get started with. Because you're trying to get to, when you're doing something like this, it's like, dude, you're trying to get to cache as quickly as possible. And you're also trying to put out as little as you can in order to get to that spot.
Absolutely. I have an ulterior motive for also doing the screen recording.
Okay.
And this is
thanks for confessing, by the way.
You're very welcome. I'm an honest criminal. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Very large successful businesses understand that there's more than one way to monetize your product.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I could also be using all of this screen recording data to train AI agents to do everything these people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can sell those AI agents to companies. And I'm like, hey, I have 12,000 hours of training for my HR AI agent.
Mm-hmm. It's not bad. I also feel like you could do the thing too where you can take this data and sell it back to the SaaS platforms that are big enough that they would love to have it as well.
Absolutely.
Oh, you mean that we could stop Slack, money.com, we could stop doing these things, we could let these features die, and only 4% of our users would even notice.
Yeah.
And like 1% would actually care about it in a meaningful way.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap, that's going to save us $120 million a year.
Yeah.
Like, what a deal.
Yeah, so I think there is some ulterior motive to that. Because every great platform knows that their user base is their best product.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you leverage that on the back end as well? So
Totally. I think it's brilliant, and I agree.
Okay, so we've got a product.
Yep.
Something, basically CRO for internal SaaS tech stack performance.
Yep.
What do we do next?
So I think at that time, it's now time in my thought. It's like, all right, cool. Time to start putting together what's our unique value prop, what's our unique selling prop. Getting those, whenever you have the those like alpha testers, those big companies that you're already like pre-working into being customers, you're showing them what's possible, and then you're also getting feedback from them. So like, hey, Apple, why do you guys like this so much? What is it about what we've got going? Obviously, it's not done, but what are you loving about the initial phases of this product? What sticks out to you? Give me a clip, give me a quote. We're giving you this for free. Help us really build out that customer testimonial side, that social proof. Let us demonstrate the efficacy to other people through this, which then starts to build out your marketing, right? And so it's like, that's some of the foundational pieces. I think that you're going to go in a place too where you want to brand this thing in such a way that when people see it, they automatically start to get what you're up to. And so I think that the actual, like, the mark, the colors, the who's going to be your voice, who's on your board, right? Like, all these details are really going to matter, because you're not looking for a small bump. Going back to Monday.com, they went public because they had so much adoption. B2B platform, it's not meant for individuals. There is plenty of market space, market share, market out there to really make this thing a huge corporation. Salesforce is an obvious example as well. And it's like, guys, we are not playing small here. So if we're going to go big, then we have to be thinking, how does this land? How can we get customers in a meaningful way? And what's a way that we're also going to communicate in everything that we're doing, what we're actually up to on the marketing and brand side? What about you, man? Would you tackle that next, or would you tackle a totally different project?
I think that being brand recognizable out of the gate is going to be big for this.
Yeah.
Because if you have this is the cool thing about B2B. If you have one success, you're going to get more successes. B2B products are a bit of wildfire.
Yeah.
Because, to your point, every business is looking to squeeze a bit more margin, a bit more revenue, a bit more of, time out of the day. And if you deliver on that, you're going to have people lining up for it. So it needs to be recognizable. It needs to be findable. It needs to be something that a CEO or COO goes, oh, that's Refynr, very quickly. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that company is using Refynr, clearly.
Totally.
So I think that there's definitely a brand development aspect of this that I wouldn't typically scream at businesses to spend a ton of time on their brand, but in this case, it might be beneficial for them in the long run to do so, at least at this earlier step.
Totally. Agreed.
I want to wrap back real quick, recap something you said about, did you say, and I might be paraphrasing here, you should listen to your customers' ideas when it comes to a SaaS product?
Yeah, I know. Crazy idea. And yes.
Why would we do that, Dave?
Oh my God. Yeah, I think that there's obviously one of the things that Jake and I have seen a lot is that we have seen people build products that no one wants. So the stats that the Small Business Administration gives out every year on this is that 1 in 5 businesses fail because there's no market for their product or service. A SaaS is a product. You have to build it towards what people actually want and need. And so when we listen to people, our customers, we actually get the insights to build a product that they want. One of the things that drives me nuts is that there are often software products in particular that get built that are a great idea to the founder, they're a great idea to the dev team. They may even be a great idea to a handful of other businesses because they thought, well, we're going to do a little bit of market research. We reached out to 10 companies, 4 of them gave us feedback, and we based it off those 4 pieces of feedback. And it's like, that's not enough. So we listen because it actually informs on how we move forward. And it drives me absolutely bonkers that people don't do that in every step of the process because it's so meaningfully helpful. Just drives me bonkers.
I experienced this firsthand. I was consulting with a SaaS product with a company, and they had developed, in my opinion, one of the coolest project management softwares I think I've ever seen. And they had a feature in it that I had never seen before. And it was the ability to, with one click, generate a one-time use credit card number that could be given to the person on the project with the line item, and that credit card number automatically synced that back to their platform.
Okay.
Absolutely cool.
Sounds
right?
great.
The problem was they decided to keep the product niched to a very small industry where only a, decent handful of companies and individuals would ever use this. And I was giving them market feedback of like, if you took this to the construction industry, to the home renovation industry, to, local businesses in general, non-for-profits, if you took this to them, they would consume the crud out of your product. Can you imagine a non-for-profit being able to cut one-time credit card codes to random volunteers and have everything tracked just by using that? It made a lot of sense. They wanted to stay in their niched little field. They haven't quite grown as fast as they would like.
I think that that's part of the challenge too, is that the way that it works in software. This is one of the reasons why software is so susceptible to this, by the way. There are very, very, very few constraints when it comes to building out software in comparison to building a physical product. And what I mean by that is, in physical products, you're limited to quality of material, physics in general, how something can actually be delivered to another human. And so like there's weight to be considered, like there's all these other things that you have to think about when you're making a physical product. When you make a digital product, it's not quite limitless, but it's almost limitless in our ability to imagine something in the future and what's possible. And so there is something to, and this is one of the things that you and I love about what we do in marketing a lot, there's something to having constraints and boundaries that actually make us more creative, more dynamic,
Totally.
and we're a lot more thoughtful before we go spend $350,000 for a physical, tangible product. We're like, hey, we got to buy inventory. We're like, oh, we have to make sure we make this just right. Versus, man, it's a lot easier to be like, let's code like we're jazz musicians.
Oh, man, we experienced this firsthand earlier this year. It was a software project that was just squirrel chasing.
Totally.
There'd be, oh, that's a cool feature I saw on LinkedIn. Let's add that to the project.
Right.
Oh, that's a cool thing that I saw in this other SaaS product. Let's add that to the project. And it's like the core thing never happened.
Right. Right.
So, all right, but let's assume we didn't do that.
Yeah.
We got to take this to market. We got to make some money.
We do.
What's your go-to-market strategy on this outside of your initial kind of alpha tester, gimmick that you're redeemable at a later date, right?
Yeah.
What we have here is a gift certificate. Um,
I think that anytime that you're doing B2B and specifically for this sort of opportunity, I think that there's a really good way to do cold outreach for this via LinkedIn, email. I also think that this is a great play for LinkedIn ads, for ads that are going to be on DSP, demand side platform, programmatic stuff. If you don't know what that is, essentially the idea behind DSP or programmatic, if you've ever wanted to target people with hyper precision, you're like, the way that I actually talk about this with clients is, if you've ever been talking with a friend, you say a word, and then 2 hours later it starts to show up in your feed. You're like, how? They're listening to my phone. They have recording software on every device. That's how I'm getting these ads. That's not how it works. The way that it works, just so everybody knows, Jake knows this, but they are reading data on your IP tied to your devices. They know that you have an iPhone. They know that you have a MacBook. They know that you have an iPad, or they know that you have an inferior product made by another company. And that was my dig at Jake because I love him. So they know what device you have. They're following you around. They can see your website history. They can tell your credit score. They know how much money you make. They know how many people live in your house. They know if you're married, divorced, with kids, whatever. All the information that you think is private is not, I swear. And so they know what you're thinking before you know what you're thinking.
We're nice guys, by the way. Like, we're nice guys. We're not creepy, I promise. Although it's hard to say you're not creepy without sounding creepy.
It's true.
No, it's like the guy in a trench coat on the streets just being like, it was just raining, no, buddy.
Yeah. So whenever I look at those sorts of things, I go, okay, I would use DSP to target people in ops, people in finance, people that are looking to reduce the financial load, because really what we're selling is a product that makes staff more efficient a little bit. Primarily, it's a savings mechanism. And so I would even price this thing as a way, especially initially, price it as a percentage of what they save. Like have a flat fee that makes sense. Have a flat fee that makes sense, that covers your costs, and gives you a little bit that allows you to pay your salesperson a commission and get the lion's share on the cost savings of reduction in how much they're spending on other software, right? And so I think that that's kind of the spot that I'd start, and I'd use that cold outreach to really inform, educate, because nothing exists like this.
Yeah.
And people in finance and people in ops know that this is a problem. However, it's so pervasive, especially in the bigger corporations, that they're probably wasting tens of millions of dollars every year on software that they're not engaging with. And so if you say, hey, listen, we're going to save you 50, we save, use those alpha testers. Let's say you have 10 of them. We save an average of, Fortune 2000 companies save an average of $56 million a year. And we only take 5% of that.
Right.
Or 10% or 15%, whatever it is. We take a percentage of that for ourselves, but we help you find the waste. And so you can put that directly back towards the bottom line. People would jump for joy to be able to do that. And so I think that that's kind of the approach that I would take, and you'd want to go educational. I think this is video content for days where you're showing people how it works and you're being somewhat playful with it. And so I think that that's kind of the approach that I would take. Cold outreach, LinkedIn ads, DSP advertising, making sure that we're hitting those decision makers across the board. Brand awareness is a great thing to run here because people need to be educated. So getting views, getting linger time, having people watch the video and watching your watch times increase, all of those elements to this are, dare I say, more important and more valuable than straight up lead generation when you're looking at your ad spend. What would you do, Jake?
So I might have a recency bias here because I've been watching Silicon Valley again.
Love that show.
I just get an army of sales dudes.
Yeah.
Give them a great commission with a smaller commission on renewals, 12-month contract. Go get them, boys. Like, it's an easy conversation to have because I'm not really asking you to spend money, right? It's a company of savings, not a company of spending for value. And so I think that's a lot easier conversation to have than buy my product. And, you know, you're going to be able to track this thing or do this thing or whatever. It's like, buy my product and you'll get money back you're losing.
There you go.
So to me, it might be lame and boring, but if you're B2B and you're looking at companies that have 1,000+ seats in their company, just go get them, boys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That might be dumb. I don't know. The other thing I was thinking, and this is a fun little tactic here. You go to companies like QuickBooks, Monday.com, Salesforce, what's another big, Slack. You know, you go to these companies and you say, hey guys, would you like to prove to your clients that your product is worth every penny they spend on it? Walk us into your client. We'll install our program. They'll see the exact numbers of how utilized properly your product is and what it's actually generating them in output.
Love it.
It's a bit of like a put your money where your mouth is game. So maybe not every SaaS might want to do that. But if you can get a handful, that might be worth doing.
I think so too. I think it's totally worth doing. And I think it's a good wrinkle.
Yeah.
When you think about how you go from, you know, okay, so you have your sales team. They're just pounding the phone. They're, hitting people up on LinkedIn. They're emailing people. They're doing all of the activities to be on the radar of all the right people, and they're just making cash hand over fist. You get customers coming in. Now where do you go? How do you kind of take this and go, yeah, now we've got the business going. What's the next problem you're solving?
There's a lot of places you could go. Obviously, you could do that resale of data back to the SaaS platforms for data for them to work on. I had an idea, though, while we were talking of thinking of Refynr as being the efficiency company. Efficiency in spend, efficiency in work time modality, like making sure everything is worth every penny you spend on it, including your employees. And so I was like, what if you, as you're analyzing this, like let's say Monday.com, all right? Within our company, there's really only 2 people that know how to do automations well in Monday.com. But that shouldn't be something that just benefits from that level. Day-to-day workers could also benefit from being able to do automations. And so if you took that data back to Monday and said, hey, Monday, make some tutorials on these underused things or these things people get hung up on. And then when we detect actively that they're struggling with that, we'll do a pop-up with a tutorial to walk them through it right then and there. So they don't have to go search for it. The company doesn't have to worry about doing the training on it. It's like we'll detect when the person is underperforming on something and we'll inject that tutorial at the right time for them.
I love that. That's great.
So yeah, I think the sky's the limit. If you just come at it as we're going to create more efficiency in spend, efficiency in effort, efficiency in action, you're going to find the next feature, the next thing to develop pretty readily.
I think so too. Yeah.
You know, and then there, like you said, can I use a slice of a program? Maybe there's something to be said about that where Monday.com is, let's just say it's $100 a month for 5 seats. Well, they only use 40% of the available features. Could you actually inject like a paywall through the software from Monday that lets me only pay $40, but I only get access to these features, you know? So there's a lot of different play space, I think, from a tool like this. What about you? Where's the future?
For me, I go into the data gold mine and start breaking off big nuggets, right? Like, I think it's not just about reselling that data back to the SaaS companies that are big enough that they're interested. It's reselling some of that data to other platforms that are going to go be built. It's reselling some of that data to consulting firms. It's reselling some of that data to advertising firms and marketing agencies. It's like the sky's the limit when we think about data and how this can be really, really powerful. What ends up happening in this particular tool is that in order for it to work effectively, you as an organization have to disclose every single solitary contract and tool you're using. Well, some of that already exists, not comprehensively. And so if you have a comprehensive list, holy Toledo, dude. Like, this is a totally different ballgame that we're playing. Additionally, I think that this is a way for there are going to be governments that are interested in this as well. What is
without a doubt?
Yeah. And so you dive deeper. I think that there also gets to a point, too, where you start to have triggers that are being able to be sent out to organizations so that they can identify, is a remote worker actually working?
Yeah.
Or even somebody at their desk, right? Or are they just having things open on their desktop, responding only when people tag them, only when they receive an email? Are they doing anything outside of that? The ability for you to have deeper insights into the efficiency of your employees skyrockets. And so I also think that demonstrates something that's really interesting there as well.
Let me ask a twist on this. Is this a 3 to 5 year exit to Microsoft play?
I think that that's an aggressive timeline for a B2B product, purely because you'd have to have so much market share at that point to exit to Microsoft, I think.
Microsoft is on almost every business computer that's out there.
Sure.
So they could take your architecture, inject it right into Windows. Now there's not an extra install program you have to manage. It's in their business stack suite as a rollout. And so instead of a business having to go through a whole install process and IT or Windows, Microsoft might go, hey, these guys, they figured something out super secret. They've got a great idea. It's got great branding. Let's take that. We can deploy this to any business in 5 minutes.
You could. I think it's more interesting to stay independent a little bit longer.
Second part of that, if you do stay independent, are you going to go the Google Workspace route and develop your own suite?
Potentially. I think that because you'd have data insight, unlike anybody else, you'd have all the data. So with that, you could start to build out platforms based off the behavior of other people, the features that they use, how they interact with them, the little things that no one really knows, and how cross-platforms really tend to be used. And so I think that could be a good move, because you all of a sudden have information that everybody else on the planet would be salivating over before they go build out a new piece of software. And so if you have a team that's data mining that for yourselves and you're really giving yourself a head start, and you can say, man, if we do X, Y, and Z, we know it's going to have immediate adoption. And really all we're doing at that point is competing on price. And here's how we could do it more efficiently than these other bigger players. Whew. Now you're cooking with something.
Very cool. Well, I am at the last drop here.
Same.
That was a good one.
Love that tequila.
Dude, this tequila is truly not your Jose Cuervo.
No.
Now, I should point out,
Chance.
it's a Cristalino, which is a specific type of production, you can just drink this. As you saw me just drinking this straight from the bottle, it is a remarkable experience. Unlike any other tequila, there's almost no bite. It's almost like a tequila liqueur.
I
So,
agree. It's
plus
very good.
also like presentation, like what? This is amazing.
I didn't have to put it into a mixed drink. I did because I thought it would be nice. I like that you just drink it. Did you drink it with a cube or neat?
Nope.
No.
Bottle to glass.
There you go. Love that, man.
Bottle to glass straight into my ass. That's not a phrase. I just said it.
Oh. I love that.
Well, thanks for hanging out with me, man, here at the end of the week.
Likewise, brother.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, well, if you enjoyed this episode of Last Drop, please go check out the other episodes. They're just as fun. We do just as crazy ideas on those. We also drink some very delicious things there as well. So if you enjoyed that part, please let us know. And if you do try the tequila or any of the other drinks that we happen to try on the episodes, let us know. We'd love to let the owners know your thoughts on how their product is. And also check out the rest of our shows on the Vox and Coin Network. This is just one of a few shows we do. We drop every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of each week. So follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen to podcasts or watch podcasts. You can find us. If you want to follow Dave and his brilliant mind that constantly disagrees with me, where can we find you, Dave?
Yeah, you can find me at RealDval, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You can also find me, Dave Valentine, on LinkedIn.
Excellent. If you want to connect with me, Jake the Wizard, you can definitely find me at The Wizard Marketing anywhere you browse social, as well as LinkedIn as Jake Talapic. Thank you again for tuning in. Any final thoughts, Dave?
A, I love this idea. B, I hope somebody does it. It would help us save money as a business. In all of my experiences of building out software, I'd rather not do that again. So I definitely don't want to touch this, but I would love it if somebody else did.
Absolutely. If you do build it, let us know. You can send checks
We're
too.
interested.
No, I'm just kidding. Have a great one, and we'll see you really soon. Thanks.